Hi everyone. Yay, everybody's here. Thank you for joining. Hi. Hi, welcome. Somebody sent a request to be in my video. Was that on purpose? Because I wasn't going to have anyone join, but I am so happy if anybody wants to come up and say hi. Let me see who sent the request. Ready for the share? Simcha, I am so ready to have you here. Let me see. Okay. Leah, hi. I'm so happy everybody's here with me. This is weird. I'm used to doing lives on my phone. My phone, actually, it's behind me charging. You can see it on the bed there. I am actually doing it now from a tablet. I'm trying something different. So everything is so big, but you probably still see me the same size, right? I'm just not used to these dimensions. Hi. Hey, Siri. Hey, Riva. Welcome, everybody. So happy to have you here with me. As I mentioned on my stories yesterday, that B'ezras Hashem, I'm going to try to go live every Monday morning. Usually I'm going to try to go earlier. Today my morning was so hectic, I just couldn't get on till now. But still made it. Here we are. We're going to talk about the Middos to work on for that week. Sarah, it's your first time joining? Welcome. I'm so happy. If you were next to me, I'd give you the biggest hug. I'd celebrate you, and I'm so happy to have you here. But all of you, every time I come live, it makes me so happy when I see people join. I don't know, you never know if people are going to join, and here you are. I'm going to have to sit here by myself, but now I don't because you're here with me. Gevura, hello. Okay, everybody's here. Do I have lipstick on my teeth? Yes, I do. Okay, we are good. You see, because I have a big screen in front of me now, I could actually see that I had lipstick on my teeth. Okay, here is what we're going to be doing. Kalanit, you're pumped, so am I. So looking forward to this. So what we're going to do today is, since today is the first day, okay, obviously last week we already started counting the Omer, but it was way too hectic to come on. So we missed the first week, which was the week of Chesed, but we're going to get into seeing it again. Hi, good to see you again also. We're going to start with this week, which is the week of Gevura. Every week there is another midah that is the dominant midah to be worked on that week. And I just want to explain a little bit. And today it's going to be a little longer. I'm still going to keep it as short as possible, but it's going to be a little bit longer only because we're having a little bit of an introduction to middos, so we understand what they are, what it is that we're working on, what it is that we're talking about. And then B'ezras Hashem, each week it's going to be a little shorter. We'll only focus specifically on that week without another intro. But the thing is that there are a few different freedoms that we've been celebrating. There is a link between Pesach and Shavuos. The idea that we are counting upward from Pesach till Shavuos means that there is a link between those two events. And the link between them is that we start off with freedom from Pesach, and we know this is a physical freedom, that we were actually physically freed from Mitzrayim, but that wasn't the complete freedom. And that's why we have the four Lashonos, the four languages of freedom. They're all implying a different type of freedom that we need in order to experience the true freedom that we're after, and that liberation to live our lives with inner peace, which what we call in Hebrew menuchas hanefesh. And the only way to do that is through achieving the four levels of freedom. So the first one is a physical freedom. The ultimate one and the highest level is what we experience on Shavuos, which is a spiritual freedom through receiving the Torah. But in order to get there, we still need to refine and to develop emotional freedom and intellectual freedom. So intellectual freedom comes through receiving the Torah as well when we start actually learning the Torah. But the emotional, the character refinement, building ourselves, becoming our best selves, emotional regulation, all of that stuff is what the Omer is all about. Those are the things that we are refining through the days of the Omer. Now, not only is there a different midah every week, but actually every day of the week, there's another midah within a midah. It's a whole complicated cocktail over here of middos work. But it's so powerful and so important because that's literally our mission in this world. We are here to perfect ourselves, to become the best possible versions of ourselves that we could be. We often look at the world and we see this problem and that problem. This is what's wrong. I need to fix this. I need to fix that. And what we call tikkun ha'olam, which we know is important, tikkun olam, the reparation of the world. But tikkun olam is actually worthless if we forget about tikkun atzmi, which is a self-reparation. When we improve the areas of ourselves that need to be improved, they have to work hand in hand. Tikkun olam, changing the world and making it a better place, is where we use our strengths, and tikkun atzmi, where we repair ourselves, is where we focus on our weaknesses, the parts of ourselves that are a little bit more difficult, the parts of ourselves that are a struggle, the challenges that we have. And they have to work together. We can't do one without the other. So we are here to see how can we improve in our middos. And the amazing thing is that when you refine your middos, when you work on yourself and bring out the best in yourself and live up to who you know you really could be, who we are inside, when we're in that space of refining our middos, that's when we reach this level of inner peace. And that's when we live with this peace within ourselves, and we not only experience true joy, but that's when we can bring joy to the world around us, to everybody else around us. Only once we understand who we are and what we're here for, and we work and we bring out the best in ourselves, then we can bring out the best in others. Okay? So that's why this is important in every relationship. It's important in our marriage, it's important in our relationship with our children, it's important in our working relationships, and it's the most important in the relationship we have with ourselves. We could never truly live, and we can't fully live if we aren't true to ourselves, if we don't understand ourselves. We can never be compassionate to another person if we can't be compassionate to ourselves. So there's so many different areas in which we understand that working on ourselves and becoming our best selves is how we repair the world, and it is how we bring the greatest amount of peace and joy to ourselves and to the world around us. So let's talk a little bit about what middos are. We'll get, but first I want to speak about one more thing about the importance of middos before we get into them a little bit. Middos are actually the cornerstone to mitzvos. We often think that mitzvos are the be-all and end-all. We receive the Torah and that's it. It's all about mitzvos, which of course we know. They're supremely important. But mitzvos cannot stand without middos. And because I'm a person who appreciates metaphors, I like to learn everything in a metaphor. If you want to picture a building, okay, a nice, beautiful big building that you create, that you build, it's made out of bricks. It needs all those bricks in order for the building to stand. But if you just pile up a bunch of bricks one on top of the other, how sturdy will that building be, right? It needs to be fortified. You can't just have a bunch of bricks piled on top of each other. Anything can knock them over. You need the cement that's in between the bricks in order for the building to really, really maintain and sustain and be strong. That cement is what we call the middos. Bricks are the mitzvos, the cement are the middos. And the middos have to be there in order to hold the mitzvos in place. And that's what we call derech eretz kadmal Torah. We always talk about this, right? What does it mean? What's derech eretz kadmal Torah? The derech eretz is our behaviors, our reactions, our responses, the way we live our lives. All of that are the cement that have to come even before the Torah, even before the mitzvos. This is why when you open up the Torah, that we know there are 5 books of the Torah, Bereshis, Shemos, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim, and the first part, the entire Sefer Bereshis and half of Shemos, okay? We don't have any mitzvos in there. We don't receive the Torah yet. We don't learn about the mitzvos. The only thing we are learning in the first third of the Torah, stories about our avos, stories about our imahos, stories about this person, stories about that person, a bunch of stories. No mitzvos yet. Why is that? Because we need to first learn how to live our lives. We need to learn how to refine ourselves. Human behavior, human response, healthy relationships. We need to learn about all of that before we can even do the mitzvos. Again, we need the cement in between the bricks. And that is what our middos are. If a person receives the Torah, but they haven't refined their character, they haven't perfected their middos. So what happens is, if let's say a person is arrogant, they have gaiva, that's a big midah that they struggle with, okay? And then they receive the Torah and they learn the Torah, then what happens is now they have 613 more reasons to be arrogant. Now I could use my arrogance in more ways. Now I know much more than you do. Whatever midah we need to perfect, if we learn Torah with it, then it fuels the negative midah if we haven't transformed it into a positive midah. And that's what middos are. Another word for midah, we define it as a character trait, but it also comes from the word midah, has another meaning also. It's a measurement. It comes from the same word. It's a measurement because middos are a spectrum. There really is no such thing as good middos and bad middos, by the way. The correct terminology would be, I like to say, a good leaning midah or a positive leaning midah and a negative leaning midah, because it's a spectrum. It's all along the same line. It's a measuring tape, a measuring stick. And the midah is right in the middle. And we get to choose, am I going to lean towards the positive side of the midah, or am I going to lean towards the negative side of the midah? That's my choice. So any midah that we are more negative leaning towards, this is our opportunity to move closer to the center and then even closer to the right, where we would be a more positive leaning, towards this midah. So that's what we need to understand about middos. Now, here's something that I wanted to mention, and then we're going to go on to the middos for this week, okay? Very, very often, I meet people who I realize don't know the difference between middos and manners. Very recently, I spoke to a young woman who was dating someone, and she was unsure in terms of whether to proceed, whether or not. She had a few questions, and we were talking a little bit about it, and I was asking her some of the important things that are needed in dating so that it can help her with some clarity. So one of the most important things is to have positive leaning middos, or what we call in Hebrew, we can call it middos tovos. So I asked her, how are his middos? Does he have good middos? And she thought for a minute. She said, yeah, generally, yeah, but sometimes he forgets to hold the door open for me. That's what she said. And I said to her, those aren't middos, those are manners. There's a big difference between middos and manners. Manners are an attitude. Manners are external behaviors. They're just things we do. They could be things we were conditioned to do. I've seen mothers sometimes tell their children, say please. You can't have it until you say please. That's a whole different topic, whether we should be forcing our children to say please and thank you, and all of that is a whole different topic. But we do teach our children in one way or another to be polite, to have a certain level of manners, to say please and thank you, to hold the door open, to smile, right? At people, we do live our lives learning a certain etiquette, societal etiquette of how to live in this world and live in society with other people. So manners would be societal etiquette, decent human behavior, okay? Those would be manners, and of course there's a place for them, and of course they're important. But I told this young woman, I said, that's okay. He could be spaced out. He could not have grown up in a home where they really taught how to hold the door, but does he have middos tovos? Does he possess the things that are important, right? Saying please and thank you, or holding the door open for someone, is not nearly as important as somebody who works on their anger, somebody who works on their laziness, somebody who is samech b'chalko and content, happy in their life. I'm going to tell you a list, and I told her, by the way, to figure out the middos, and also just an important concept to have to see if they're on the same page, hashkafically, whatever. I told her on the next date she should bring, ask him a question, because middos are so important, in finding a life partner. So somebody said, how do you know if somebody has good midot? Again, that's a whole long conversation, but we'll touch upon it a little bit now. And here's what I told her to do. I said, ask him a question just to see how important he thinks middos are, or midot are. I said, ask him if there were two schools for us to choose from to send our children to. And one school emphasized Torah learning. Their level of Torah learning was top, academically, intellectually. Their level of Torah was just through the roof, top yeshiva in that area. But the middos of the students, not great. Middos of the teachers, maybe not great. But Torah learning, whoa. And then there's another school or yeshiva to choose from where not the highest level of Torah learning necessarily, but impeccable middos. The students, the rebbeim, the teachers, just such an emphasis on middos. What would you choose? And she was excited because I said, this is a great conversation to have, right? And the truth is, I would love to hear what you think. By the way, if you were sitting in front of me now, I would ask you for your opinions. So you're welcome to share them. But I know this is a real conversation, right? Some people might think Torah learning is more important. Some people might think middos are more important. But if you look into the Sefer Shari Kedusha by Rav Chaim Vital, who, by the way, was the top student of the Arizal, not just the top student, but all the Sfarim we have from the Arizal today were Rav Chaim Vital is the one who wrote down those teachings. So we're talking about somebody who had real connection with a tremendous tzaddik. Okay, Sarah wrote a school of good midot. So that's actually what Rav Chaim Vital says. He says, absolutely, midot have to come even before Torah learning. Okay, so we have to be able to perfect our midot. Now, we need to have in mind understanding what midot are. It's easy to say, if we think good midot or good middos, okay, I see many of you are agreeing the middos school for sure. If we think that middos means being nice, which is what many people think, oh yeah, they're a nice person, right? Then we can think that, oh my gosh, how can we say that middos are more important than Torah? Because if you're just a nice person, but you're not following the mitzvos, not following Torah, how could that, yes, Be'ez Hashem, Nancy, I'm going to save it, okay? How does it make any sense that middos come before Torah? What does that even mean, right? I'm just reading the comments. Midot are so important. When you have amazing midot, your Torah learning is nourishing. That's exactly what it is. Torah learning is supposed to bring good midos. Exactly. So here's the thing. When we know what midos actually are, we understand that they actually come from Torah, right? Because being nice is not really good midos. Now, I have 3 daughters in Shidduchim. Many of you know that. Those of you who don't know that, I do. If you have any boys, let me know. So I make phone calls all the time on a regular basis. I'm calling about this guy, I'm calling about that guy, and suggest it to them. And I always ask, please tell me about his middos. And 100% of the time, people say, oh, he's the nicest guy. And I always tell them, that's not a good midah. What about his middos? Okay, I'm happy to hear that he's nice. That's beautiful. Or maybe that's a midah. It could fall under the category maybe of a midah, but that's not the definition of good middos. I tell them, what midah does he have that stands out to you? And most of the time, they're silent. They say, I'm not really sure. Can you give me an example? And I say, sure, I'm happy to give you an example. And I read off a whole list of middos. There's humility, there's patience, there's being sameach b'chalko, content, truly happy with what he has in life. There's being a disciplined person, consistency, self-control, simchas hachayim, gratitude. There's so many middos, having a positive perspective on life. Being kind might be one of them, but you can be a nice person and you can still really struggle with your anger or laziness, or you can be a very negative person and focused on all the things that are going wrong in your life and not having gratitude for the things you have, but you can still be nice. Or you can smile at someone, which, by the way, sometimes an external behavior that we're talking about, remember we said before that a midah is a behavior. Sometimes an external behavior can come from a good midah, but it all depends on what the intention is. You can smile and say good morning to people. That could be, that could be just etiquette, that you were brought up that way, but inside you're resenting the person, or inside you really couldn't care less if the person has a good day. Or it can come, there was b'sefer panim yafos, right? You greet people with a happy face. It could come from a good midah. So it all depends on what's going on inside, because the difference between middos and manners is manners are something that we do, Middos are something that we are. Again, I'll say that a little differently. Manners are what we do. Middos are who we are. And what are our external behaviors coming from? Are they a reflection of who we are inside? Or am I just being nice because I'm a people pleaser and I want you to like me? So I'm going to be nice to you, but inside I have resentment, or inside I don't care, or inside I don't have empathy. Do we understand the difference? So we need to make a clear distinction between middos and manners. They are very, very different. And if we want to achieve this level of inner peace that we're talking about, and if we want to bring joy to ourselves, live in true happiness, and bring joy to the people around us and to the world around us, we could only do that by refining our character, by refining our middos, by emotional regulation, and by really, really working on bringing our middos towards the positive side. Okay? Now, that being said, let's talk about this week. So last week was chesed. We missed that, but we will get to it. We'll talk about chesed as we go on. I just want to focus now on the middos of this week. Now, this whole week in general has been Gevura. Now, Gevura is strength. It means strength of character. It means discipline. It means limitations. Thank you, Yaffa. I so much needed to hear this. I hope you saved this live. You're super welcome. And as Hashem, I will definitely save this live. Okay, I always, I ask Hashem to help me. I have lost a couple of lives in the past, but I do think hopefully it'll save. Okay? Gevura are, what were we saying? Oh, it's discipline, limits, boundaries. That's really what Gevura is all about. Now, the Torah, what are boundaries from a Torah perspective? The Torah is a book of boundaries. The Torah is all about saying when to say yes, when to say no, how much, how little, where are the limits, where are the boundaries, where are the property lines. Everything in Torah is about boundaries. It is bound by mitzvos, are bound by time, they're bound by space, they're by location, gender. Right? There are so many boundaries within the Torah. Now, I want to talk for a minute about the first time we learn about boundaries in the Torah, and that's actually in the very, very beginning. This goes back to the first recorded conversation that Hashem had with humankind. In the very beginning, let's go back to Adam Arishon, when Hashem was telling him about the Eitz Hadas, not to eat from that particular tree. Do you recall how the command was given? If you go back to Bereshis, you can look inside and see the words. I'm just going to say the explanation now of the words. Hashem said to Adam, listen carefully. It's mind-blowing, and this gives us such a clear understanding of what boundaries are. Hashem said, Adam, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, except for this one. Isn't that amazing? That's how Hashem said it to him. Adam, you're free to eat from any tree in the garden, except for this one. The freedom that you will experience by knowing your boundaries, by knowing your limits, is limitless, right? There's an incredible freedom that comes along with boundaries. It gives you clarity. It helps you know there's a clear beginning and a clear end. There's a space, there's a gate, there's a limit. I can do whatever I want within those boundaries, within that limit. That's how freeing boundaries are. Now, sometimes we're afraid of boundaries. We hear the word boundaries and it seems a little stifling to us. It seems a little, boundaries? No, I'm going to ruin this relationship if I put a boundary up. Because we think that a boundary distances us from other people. But really, really what a boundary does is it creates closeness between us. It creates healthy relationships. Without boundaries, we can sometimes feel smothered, we can feel stifled, overwhelmed, or we can be the one doing the stifling or overwhelming other people. We can feel so frustrated when there are no boundaries, right? We can start feeling resentful to people when there are no boundaries, or resentful towards things that we're doing if there are no boundaries set for those things. The Torah teaches us how to say the word no. No, as a full sentence, right? Yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, I would like to wear that. I'd like to eat that. I'd like to say that. I can't. So I'm going to say no. It teaches us healthy boundaries so that we don't get burnt out, so that we don't end up having resentment. But when we don't have those boundaries, we get burnt out, we get overwhelmed, we feel so frustrated to an extent that we actually might end up damaging our relationships, because when it's a free-for-all, then we end up setting up our own boundaries in other places because we have to function with them. And then we end up putting up boundaries that really make no sense or that can really be harmful. And what I mean by that is that when you set a boundary, it allows you to bring the relationship to a healthy place. Without a boundary, either you're all in and it's too much and it's too overwhelming, and what their people are doing are frustrating you, or you're starting to resent them because you're all in. Or when you reach that place of resentment and overwhelm, that's when you say, oh my gosh, forget it. This relationship is so unhealthy. I need to cut this relationship. I need to go no contact. I need to end this relationship. Which one of those are healthy? Neither one of them. Boundaries bring us back to a healthy a middle ground where we can say, I want to have a relationship with this person, but I want it to be a healthy relationship with them. And I'll give you an example about, I guess this is an example that's coming to mind because I live out of town, so we have carpools. If you live super in town and you have buses, maybe this won't apply to you, but it's the first example that comes to mind, so I'm sure you can use your imagination. So we do carpools. We can. I live in a place where there aren't that many people who go to my kids' schools, but there are many people who do carpools, right? So what happens if there's one family in the carpool who are just never ready on time? Their kid is never ready and you always have to wait for them 10 minutes and you're honking and everyone's getting frustrated and then everybody's late. And when that mother has to do carpool, everybody's always late. She comes to pick everybody up late. This could happen, right? I'm sure it's happened in many carpools. So either there will be a lot of frustration, a lot of ill will towards that mother, towards that child, towards that family. People will always talk. There'll be lashon hara. There's going to be a lot of frustration. There will be unhealthy relationships with those people. Or at a certain point, they could actually damage the relationship by saying, no, I'm sorry. You're always late. You can't do carpool with us anymore. And that can be very damaging also. A healthy way to deal with this would be to say, hi, go over in person to this mother and say, we love having you in the carpool with us. We love having your child in the carpool with us. But we also love being on time. It's important for our children that they get to school on time. And there's a little bit of an issue with that. So let's work something out. Is there a way we can help you in any way? Or if you can't be on time, maybe let's go our own ways on good terms. We love you. We're so happy to be friends with you. But we just might not be able to carpool together because it's not working, right? And you can have the most loving relationship with this person, and it doesn't have to ruin your friendship at all when you set those boundaries. But if you don't set the boundaries, you really damage the relationship, or you end up in overwhelm and resentment. So we understand the importance of boundaries. Now we have to set boundaries for ourselves also. Do we have a problem with saying no? Do we just say yes, 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 yes to everything because we are struggling with saying no? Where does that come from? Are we people pleasing? Now this is a different topic that we're not going to get into now. Maybe we'll talk about this another time. But is it possible to simultaneously people please and God please? Can we be people pleasers and God pleasers at the same time? Usually not. Because if we cannot say no to another person, we will also struggle with saying no to our Yetzer Hara. We will also struggle with saying no to the things that we have to do and our obligations and all the other areas of life. It all comes together, right? We might be so afraid of saying no to another person that we're going to do something that is against our standards. We'll do something that's against our better judgment. We'll do something that we know is wrong morally or ethically, or we might be over on a certain mitzvah because we're too afraid to say no to another person or to let another person down, right? So we have to make a decision. Am I here to please people, to please Hashem, to please myself? We could please ourselves and please Hashem at the same time, right? So that's just another question to ask. So these are the importance of boundaries. Now, it's important to understand also, and this could help us setting those boundaries, is when we understand that a boundary is not something we set around another person. This is sometimes why we resist boundaries. A boundary is not something we set around another person. We can't control another person. We can't control what they think, what they say, what they do. We only have control over ourselves. So a boundary is something we set around ourselves, not around another person, okay? Let me just get to this question. What do you do about feeling bad? You might hurt their feelings, but it doesn't feel right to be in a relationship the way they want. You know what, Meira? If you're afraid of hurting their feelings, you're going to end up hurting their feelings so much more if you don't set boundaries, because you're going to end up resenting them. You're going to end up pushing them away in other ways, in ways that are so much more hurtful. So it's much more worth taking the risk of maybe hurting their feelings a little bit, but doing it in the most sensitive way, the most delicate way, but in a way that you can actually save the relationship, and they're going to feel much more love from you with a healthy boundary than if you don't set that boundary, okay? Let me know if that was helpful. Can't wait for the people-pleasing topic, Javi. It is coming up, okay? Simcha, I love that boundary about boundary around ourselves. Any Torah source for the text, Jewish idea we can use to back it? Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the Beis HaMikdash, the Kohanim, there were so many boundaries over there that are set based on accessibility, performance, ability, right? There are certain places that every regular person, every regular Jew is allowed to enter when it comes to the Beis HaMikdash. There are certain places that only Kohanim can enter. There's a boundary there because Kohanim are allowed a certain level of access, right? But that access comes with responsibility. So they have a certain level of access, they have a certain level of responsibility, they're allowed there. Then there's only one place, there's a place where only the Kohen Gadol can go to. Nobody else, there's that boundary. He has greater access, but he also has greater responsibility. So if we see that people in our lives are receiving access from us, let's say we're giving them level 10 access, but they are only showing level 3 responsibility, then it's time to put a boundary around ourselves to say, okay, that's not a problem, but then they're only going to receive level 3 access, not level 10 access, right? It's a boundary that I'm putting around me, not around them. If the person is showing level 7 responsibility, they can receive level 7 access. It's what I'm giving it's the boundary I'm putting around me. I'm allowing them to have this level access, correlating to that level of responsibility, okay? And there's so many others. I can't get into it now because I do have to leave soon. I have an appointment in a few minutes, a meeting with someone. Let me just see what else was written here. What if people don't respect your boundaries? Okay, you know what? Second, I love that. Access comes with responsibility. Yes, when people get access, it's because we know they're responsible with us, with themselves, etc. You're brilliant. Oh, no, this is Torah, okay? And I'm happy to share it with you. So that's it. What if people don't respect your boundaries? You know what? It's a legitimate question. That's okay. That's okay. They don't respect our boundaries. We still have to set them. They will, with consistency, and that's actually something I wanted to talk about today. When there is, the reason sometimes that people don't respect boundaries is because the boundary is a little wishy-washy. When you set a boundary, but it's not fortified with consistency, then all it was a nice plan. It was a well-intentioned plan, but it wasn't a boundary, okay? A boundary can't be wishy-washy. And when it's not, people learn. This is my limitation. They're going to learn, okay? What time will this class start and reach? Okay, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to look at my schedule. It's going to be earlier than this, okay? Hopefully. But I will let you know. You're so welcome. Okay, let's go quickly because I have a few more minutes. into all the different gevuras of the week. So the overall midah is gevura. I think I missed out almost boundaries. No, it's not the whole Omer Rifki. It's this particular week is about gevura. And gevura are boundaries, limitations, discipline. Okay, so the first day of Gevura, we'll go through them quickly. And remember I told you that there's a different midah within each day of the week, within. So this week, the general midah is Gevura. And every day of this week, there is another midah within Gevura. Okay? So, the first day was Chesed with Gevura. Even Chesed needs boundaries. If there are no boundaries to your chesed, then you are not doing chesed for someone else. Because every yes that you give to someone is a no to someone else. Now that someone else might be your family, that someone else might be yourself. So even chesed needs boundaries. We cannot always say yes. Hashem taught us through the Torah how to say no, because no is a good midah. Okay? The next day, the second day of Gevura, is the strongest. Whenever there's a double, we know how strong the midah is on that day. So Gevura of Gevura is the second day. So this is about making a decision, attending to a decision, how to make a healthy decision. That's what Gevura of Gevura is all about. It's a decision that I have to make. Yes or no, right or wrong, go here or go there, up or down, right? What is this decision and how to make it? So in a nutshell, the way to make a good decision is to write out a list of all the pros and cons, okay? What are the benefits in this? What are the assets? What are the liabilities? Pros, cons, positives, negatives. Then do proper research if that's necessary. Do your due diligence, get advice from somebody who you trust, who is knowledgeable in this area. So get advice, learn, research, pros and cons, study up, and then decide. Once you decide, because you did all of your hishtadlos to make the right decision, once you decide, then you stick with it. This is my decision and that's it. You can't be wishy-washy about it. We'll get to that in one of the other days about the problem with wishy-washy. The third day of Gevura is Tiferet of Gevura. Tiferet is is very healthy balance. Tiferet is a mixture of both Chesed and Gevura. Okay, so Tiferet is finding a balance of truth, a balance of emes. Yaakov Avinu, okay, Avraham was Chesed, Yitzchak was Gevura. Yaakov was the balance of both, and he was Tiferet, and he was also known as Ish HaEmes, right? A man of truth. That's what Tiferet is. I see some comments here. I'm going to get to them when I'm finished with this, okay? V'li Neder. If I don't get to your comment, please ask it to me privately. So Tiferet of Gevura is to pursue truth in a situation. This is true freedom, by the way, because this means that no matter what the situation is, no matter what's going on, no matter what other people are saying or thinking or doing, if I see that this isn't the truth, that this isn't MS, that this is not aligned with Torah, then I'm going in a different direction. I'm pursuing the truth. And this is something that's so prevalent to today, because there are so many messages that we're receiving just by being online, by being on these different apps. We're learning so much from other people, different ideas, and some of it aligns with Torah, some of it doesn't. Some of it sounds smart, and you're like, oh, okay. But then we have to stop and say, but is this the truth, or is it not the truth? There are so many bandwagons to join, right? Hashtag this and hashtag that, and join me here, and join this protest, and join. 1 minute. Where did they originate? Do they align with Torah? We need to stop and think. So sometimes it means going against what other people are doing or saying or thinking, because it doesn't sit right with me. I don't think this aligns with Torah. Pursuing the truth in every situation. That is Tiferet of Gevura. Okay? Then we have Netzach of Gevura. Netzach is everlasting. Okay? That's what Netzach means. And this means to be conscientious about sticking with a decision that you made. First we said Gevura of Gevura means making that decision. having the courage to say, this is my decision and this is what I'm doing. But I said we can't be wishy-washy. If we want it to stick, if we want it to last, then we have to be able to stick with that decision. And that means we have to take the decision and turn it into commitment. Those of you who have taken any of my courses, and any of the courses I've given, we spoke a lot about living in decision mode versus living in commitment mode. I don't have the time to get into it now. Maybe another time, or maybe if you want to join any of my other courses, you'll learn more about it. But we sometimes live in decision mode where things are a little wishy-washy. I can't decide. I choose this, but then something better comes up. I choose that, but something new comes up. I choose this. That sounds more enticing. Okay, I changed my mind. Wishy-washy. And we do this often, even when it comes to lifestyle changes. We want to create a healthier lifestyle, better habits for ourselves, whatever it is. But we don't stick with it. Why can't we stick with a plan? Why can't we stick with something that we decided we're going to do? Why can't we stick with a better way of eating, a better movement, being a better wife, being a better mother, whatever decisions we made about who we really want to be. And we do this every year. We do it Rosh Hashanah, or we do it for New Year's resolution, whenever we make those decisions. And it's so hard to stick with them. It's so hard to stick with them. And a big part of the reason is because we're still in decision mode. We never switched into commitment mode. And we need to take that switch and flip it. Say, I am committed no matter what. No matter what, I'm committed to this. We can't be wishy-washy. And by the way, when we are wishy-washy about things in life, we are not solid vessels, because we're not here, we're not there. So we cannot receive siyata d'shmaya. And that's where we can't be successful. You want siyata d'shmaya in anything you're doing? We have to commit to the thing, because that's when we're a solid vessel. When we're in decision mode, it's like Hashem was like, I say this in quotes, of course. Hashem's like, I can't find you. Like, where are you? You're not here, you're not there. You said you're going to be here, but I'm looking here, you're not there. You said you're there. Like, where are you? But when we're in commitment mode, that's when Hashem says, you're a solid vessel. Now I'm going to be able to fill that vessel up with siyata d'shmaya, and you can be more successful in doing the thing that you want to do. Okay? Then we have Hod of Gevura. Hod is the glory, the splendor of Gevura, of boundaries, of limitations. This is when we consider how a decision that you make will affect other people, right? This is, some decisions I make are not only about me, the way I speak, the way I dress, the way I behave, the way I present myself. This will have effects on other people too. On my family, on my friends, on Klal Yisrael, who I am, how I portray myself. All of that has an effect on other people. The decisions I make, am I making a decision that is a selfish decision? It is only in my best interest, or is it in the best interest of other people? Also, of the people that matter, of my husband, of my children. These are things we have to have in mind. Now, sometimes the best decision is a decision that is one that is only best for you. Sometimes it's for other people. It's just the idea of understanding that we have to be conscientious, and we have to consider the fact that a decision that I make might affect other people, and how will it affect them? And another thing that comes to mind about this is, sometimes we know we need to send our children or a specific child to a school that will be the best school for them. This is a school where they're going to thrive. They're not thriving where they are, and I know they need this school, but I'm a little nervous about what my neighbors are going to say, and what my friends are going to say, what my family is going to say. This isn't a school that is necessarily, our hashkafa, or it doesn't, the people don't think, yeah, but is this the best school for your child? Here's where we put up spiritual boundaries, emotional boundaries. What is the best thing for my family? Every decision that I make will affect another person, and is it in their best interest? Okay? How am I trying to create change in my home? Create a dynamic shift in my home? Am I doing it, am I making a decision to be forceful with the people around me? To coerce the people around me, to manipulate the people around me? Or am I trying to create a dynamic shift through influencing them, through modeling the behavior, right? Every decision I make will affect another person. Then we have Yesod of Gevura. Yesod of Gevura is actually today. Okay, Yesod of Gevura is commitment and consistency. If we want to create those, spoke about commitment already, but what does it mean to commit? It means through consistency. It means I am going to do this every day. I am going to say this every day. I'm creating a new identity for myself. That's the way to create change. To create any kind of change in life requires creating an identity change. If I identified as a person who can't get up in the morning, early enough to work out, and I just can't find time in my day to work out, I'm never going to work out because that's my identity. If I identify as a person who just can't go to sleep early because I'm not a person who goes to sleep early, then that's my identity, and I will never be able to change that habit. I will never be able to work on that because my identity hasn't changed. But once I change my identity, and this was my own personal struggle for many years. I've spoken about this before. I'm a super late night person. I always was. You even hear how I said that. My identity was always like, I'm up till 3 a.m. People know they can message me anytime. Everyone knows I'm always up, right? But I have entered a stage in my life. I am in my mid-40s, and it's starting to catch up to me. All these years of not sleeping. And it was a decision that I made that I have to start going to sleep a little earlier at a more decent hour. And it was so hard for me to make that change because people would, what? You're in bed by 12, by 1, what? It was like, and I was like, wait, no, maybe not. I'm a person who's always up late. Even my own kids, and in a joking way. But they'd make fun of me. Oh, Emma's getting old. She's going to sleep. And I had to be okay with that. I had to teach myself to say, I have to change my identity because this is for my health. And if I want better health, I need to make healthy changes. I need to change my identity. Okay. So now I'm a person who goes to sleep earlier. I am not up all night anymore. Sometimes I still am. But generally speaking, I'm trying to take care of my health. I had to change my identity to do that. So if you want to change your identity, if you want to change your habit and create more consistency in your life, the only way to do that is by changing your habit and saying, no, I am a person who gets up early. I'm a person who sets my alarm and I wake up when it rings and I put on my sneakers and I get moving because that's a change that I want in my life. Okay, now this was a very abridged version of this whole concept of changing your identity, but it's so important to understand that commitment and consistency are what we need. That's the yesod of good, the foundation of discipline. That's the midah of today. The foundation of it. In order to create a new habit, I have to have these two things, commitment and consistency. Now, we often blame lack of motivation, right? Oh, but I'm not motivated to do this. I'm not motivated. My friends, I want to tell you something about motivation. Motivation is a scam. It's a farce. Motivation is a trap. We say, I'm not motivated enough. I can't do this thing. I can't reach my goals. I can't even do my daily obligations. I can't do the thing I committed to do because I'm just not motivated. We need to understand how motivation works and what motivation. So motivation is not what we said. It's not real. It's not a thing. It's a scam. We create the motivation through action. That's what motivation is. Through getting up and deciding to do it, we build momentum. We build the motivation. There is a chemical concept that's called activation energy. This is real. This exists in the world of chemistry. This is my green juice that I make for myself every day. The world of chemistry is this activation energy, which means that sometimes there's energy that needs to be expressed, but it's just not able to circulate on its own. So there needs to be an external source that gets the energy going, and that's what that activates the energy, and that is what's called activation energy, and then it can continue to go on by itself. We are chemical beings, us humans. We're chemical beings, and we also sometimes need activation energy to get going. We also sometimes need to say, I'm not feeling the motivation on my own. I have to do something physical, a physical act that is going to activate the motivation and activate the energy to get going. So you want to know how to motivate yourself? Through actions. Get up and do it. Now here's the thing, and again, this is a whole other topic, but I just feel like I have to mention it. In neurotypical brains, there are a few things that make it easier for a person to be motivated, because a neurotypical brain is motivated by importance. If this is something that's really important, I have to do it. It's motivated by reward. It's motivated by consequence. So it's easier to act on something to create the motivation for yourself. But in neurodivergent brains or ADHD brains, it's actually a lot harder because the discipline that's needed to build that motivation doesn't come from the same things. A neurodivergent brain is not motivated or can't get themselves to act just because something is important, or just because there'll be a reward or a consequence from doing or not doing the act. They're motivated by other things, and a few of those things are passion or interest. If it's something that you're super interested in, you are going to be disciplined and you're going to do it. If there's something that's a competition or a challenge, that can motivate a neurodivergent brain. If there's something that is, if they feel a sense of urgency, like it has to be done, like there's a deadline coming up right now, right? Then they're going to do it. If it's something novel or creative, then they're going to do it. If it's something that they're super passionate about, they're going to, that's what gets them into action. So regardless, I just wanted to mention this because it's important to understand how our brains work, how our spouses' brains work, how our children's brains work. And they can't have the same level of discipline through the same things that discipline us, depending on what your brain makeup is. But no matter what, however your brain works, that's what your challenge is. That we all have the same challenge, and that is to create discipline in our lives while training our minds to work for us and not to work against us. Okay? To create discipline in our lives, and that's what creates the motivation so that we could have consistency in our commitments. That is the yesod of Gevura. That is today. Now let's talk about tomorrow, which is the last day in Gevura. And I'm just realizing that it's not even on Mondays, and maybe I should go live on a day, maybe on Wednesdays, which seems to be the beginning of each midah. I think I'm going to change it because we're almost finished with Gevura. So maybe I'll change it, okay? Let me know if that makes sense and if that works for you. So maybe we'll do Wednesdays instead in the beginning of each week. So tomorrow is the last day of Gevura, and it is Malchus of Gevura, or Malchut of Gevura. And that is the royalty, the kingship of Gevura. And this is when we realize that we have to make a decision about something, and then we stop worrying about it. Remember what went into making that decision. We did our due diligence, we studied, we got advice, we did research, we made sure that we were making a good decision, one that made sense, and it was a decision l'shem shamayim. Okay, we're doing the right thing. And by the way, how to make a decision l'shem shamayim. Every decision that we make, especially if it's I'm not talking about if it's a superficial decision, but we're talking about moral decisions, like moral dilemmas, or big decisions in life, where to live, where to send our kids, shidduchim, whatever it is. We always have to ask ourselves, is what I'm about to do, this decision that I'm making, is it going to bring me closer to Hashem or further away from Hashem? And that will help me make this decision. Is this something that is going to make Hashem proud of me, or going to make Hashem say, you could have done better, right? That's how I personally make these big decisions. I have so many stories to share about that, but it's going to have to be another time because I'm already late for my next meeting. So that's how we make decisions. And that's at a certain point, Malchus of Gevura is when we stop and we say, I made my decision. I did it l'shem shamayim. I did it with all my due diligence. I did all my hishtadlos to make this decision. And now I'm not going to worry about it. Now it's in Hashem's hands. Lo alecha hamalacha legmar. It's not up to you to finish the task. The results are not in your hands. The results are not up to us. But we are not free from the effort. That's the rest of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says the results are not in our hands, but you're not free from the effort. We have to do our hishtadlos. We have to do our due diligence, and then we sit back and we say, Hashem, I did everything I can. The rest is up to you. So that is the week of Gevura. I see a question here about motivate. Please reach out to me if I wasn't able to get to your questions. I'm so sorry. I have to run now. But thank you for being here with me today. And as I mentioned, I think we're going to change to Wednesdays, which means I'll see you again on Wednesday. I'll come live because I want to come when it's the beginning of the new midah of the week. Okay? Thank you all for being here with me today. Thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, for bringing more peace to yourselves and to your lives and to your homes through midah refinement, through character development, and through bringing more joy into the world and creating better change in the world, because we change the world by changing ourselves. Okay? Thank you. Love you all. Have the most amazing day.